It's 11:52 on a Wednesday night. You're on your couch. The apartment is fine. It's always been fine. A little dim because one of the lamps stopped working sometime in January, and you keep ordering the wrong replacement bulb. But fine. Your phone lights up. The subject line says, "Updated compensation package. Action required." You sit up straight. You scroll past the legal headers, past the dental coverage breakdown, past the PTO accrual chart, and then you stop. $235,000 base salary, plus performance bonus eligibility. You read it again. Then one more time. Not because the words are unclear, but because you want to live inside the moment of understanding it. You want to let it register slowly, like your brain is downloading something too large for the connection. You screenshot it. You don't know why, just to make it exist somewhere else. You call your sister. Not text, call. She picks up confused and half asleep, and you just say the number out loud for the first time. She screams. You laugh. According to IRS statistics of income data, a $235,000 individual income puts you inside the top 4% of all earners in the United States. Top 4%. You think, I finally did it. And that night, just that night, you are completely, uncomplicatedly right. Here's what nobody tells you about the night the number arrives. The spending starts before you spend a single dollar. 4 months later, you sign a lease on a new apartment. You tell yourself it's not extravagant, it's appropriate. You're in a different chapter now. Your space should reflect that. Rent, $4,200 a month. 2 bedrooms, rooftop access, a dishwasher that actually works. The first night, you sit in the empty living room with a bottle of wine on the floor and feel like you have arrived somewhere specific. Then comes the car situation. Your old hatchback has 127,000 miles on it and a bumper sticker from a company you no longer work for. You go to a dealership just to look. You leave with a 39-month lease on a Mercedes C-Class, $940 a month. You have a reason for every part of that decision: the reliability, the safety ratings, the fact that you're in rooms now where people notice what you drive. Your partner also upgrades, a leased Volvo XC40, $680 a month. Together, $1,620 a month in car payments. When you say that number out loud, it sounds irresponsible. When it sits in a spreadsheet next to $235,000, it looks like nothing. That gap between how a number sounds and how it feels next to your salary is where the trap lives. The restaurants shift next, not dramatically, just directionally. You stop automatically ordering the second cheapest wine. You start having a regular table at a place that charges $18 for a cocktail. A single dinner for 2 is now $280 on a normal night, more if it's a celebration. Everything eventually becomes a celebration. The wardrobe follows. You start using the phrase cost per wear to justify things that cost $400 and will be worn twice before they become background furniture in your closet. None of these purchases feel reckless examined individually. That's the specific trap. You're not buying one big stupid thing. You're buying 40 completely reasonable things that total something you never agreed to. Here's the number everyone skips. You don't take home $235,000. Filing single, living in a high cost of living state, federal income tax on $235,000 runs approximately $48,000 using 2024 IRS bracket rates. FICA, Social Security, and Medicare takes another $17,000. State income tax, depending on where you are, call it $14,000 to $18,000. Total gone before you see it, roughly $79,000 to $83,000. You take home somewhere around $152,000 to $156,000 per year. Divide by 12. $12,700 a month, $12,900 on a good month. That's your actual operating budget. You knew taxes would be significant. What you weren't prepared for was how $12,700 feels after you've been telling yourself you make $235,000. It feels thin, almost embarrassing, like the universe is playing a joke. And then the month actually happens. Rent, $4,200. 2 car leases, $1,620. Both insurance policies, $390. Groceries, $850. Dining and bars, $1,300. Subscriptions, streaming, gym, apps, cloud storage, $310. Student loan, $580. Travel, you do a long weekend every 6 weeks, averaged monthly, $650. Clothes, grooming, dry cleaning, $360. Utilities and phone, $260. That's $10,520. Before the spontaneous birthday trip, before the furniture you bought because the new apartment needed a moment, before the friend's wedding in Portugal that you obviously had to attend. You max your 401k because you're responsible, $23,000 a year in 2024. That's $1,917 a month leaving before it ever hits your checking account. Do the math. 12,700 minus 10,520 minus 1,917, you have $263 left. Not to invest, not to save aggressively toward anything, just to exist between now and next payday without something breaking. That is the financial reality of the top 4% of American earners living the lifestyle that felt like the reward. $263 of breathing room. Security and barely enough are not the same address. His name is Marcus. He's been at your company for years, quiet, methodical, the kind of person that gets described as solid in performance reviews and then kind of forgotten about until something actually needs doing right. Marcus drives a 2016 Toyota Camry, silver. There's a small scrape above the rear wheel well that has been there since you've known him. You've had lunch with him maybe 15 times. He never talks about money. Last month, during a completely casual conversation about nothing in particular, Marcus mentioned, without any apparent awareness of what he was dropping, that he'd recently crossed $340,000 in his investment account. Not retirement, brokerage, liquid. You said, "Marcus, that's incredible." He shrugged, said he'd been putting money in since his late 20s, said the market did most of the work. Then he asked if you wanted to split an appetizer. You thought about that conversation for 6 days. Marcus earns $79,000. You know this because you were hired in adjacent salary bands. You earn 3 times what Marcus earns. Marcus has $340,000 in a brokerage account. You have $28,000 in a brokerage account you opened with great intentions and contribute to when you remember. Here's the math Marcus probably never thought of as a strategy, just as a habit. $1,400 a month, invested consistently over 11 years at the market's historical average return of roughly 10% annually. That's almost exactly $340,000. He wasn't doing anything sophisticated, he wasn't timing the market, he was just spending less than he made and putting the difference somewhere it could grow without him watching it. You've been contributing roughly $230 a month to your brokerage, outside of the 401k, not because you couldn't do more, because there was always something, a trip, a dinner, a thing that was on sale and therefore practically free. Here is the thing about the comparison trap that nobody explains correctly. Marcus isn't the lesson. The lesson is what his Camry represents. He decided, consciously or not, that his car was not the point. His car was a tool. It moved him from where he was to where he needed to be. The dent above the rear wheel well was not a reflection of his worth. Your cars cost $1,620 a month and reflect nothing except a belief that the performance of success is the same thing as success. It is not.
You do it on a Sunday in October. You open every account at the same time. No more approximate knowing. No more rough mental math that stays fuzzy on purpose. 401k, $58,000. 4 years of contributions, market cooperated, fine. Brokerage, $28,000. High yield savings, $6,200. Car leases, Zero equity. You are renting these vehicles. You will hand them back and have nothing. Total liquid and investable net worth, approximately $92,000. And that's being generous by including the retirement account. Actual accessible wealth, under $35,000. You are 35 years old. You've been a six-figure earner for 7 years. You've been earning over $200,000 for 4 years. $35,000. The Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive wealth study conducted in America, shows the median net worth of households aged 35 to 44 earning over $200,000 is approximately $310,000. You are below the median, in the top 4% of income, below the median wealth for your income peer group. The financial industry actually has a name for this: mass affluent. It describes people earning $100,000 to $1 million a year with little to no investable assets beyond a retirement account. Over 30 million American households fit this description. You are not an edge case. You are a category. The humanic treadmill is the term psychologist Philip Brickman used. The basic finding? Humans adapt to improved circumstances within 6 to 18 months and return to roughly their baseline level of emotional satisfaction. The $4,200 apartment that felt incredible in April feels normal by fall. The Mercedes stops turning your head by winter. So you upgrade again, chasing a feeling that the previous upgrade delivered and then withdrew on schedule. This isn't moral failure. It's neurobiology. The problem is what it costs. If you had taken $3,500 a month, the gap between what you've been spending and what a real but leaner version of this life requires, and invested it consistently for the last 10 years at historical market returns, $712,000. Not a projection, not financial optimism. Compounding arithmetic applied to publicly available historical data. $712,000. Instead, you have $35,000 and a cashmere sweater you've worn 4 times.
You don't blow everything up at once. That would just be a different kind of performance, a dramatic gesture you could build an identity around. What you actually do is slower and less cinematic and more effective. The leases end, both of them, within 5 months of each other. You don't release. You buy used. A 2021 Honda CR-V with 34,000 miles, $22,500, financed. Your partner gets a 2020 Mazda CX-5, $19,000. Combined monthly payments, $890, down from $1,620. You freed up $730 a month without drama. When the apartment lease ends, you don't renew. You find a building that's $1,100 less per month. It's good. It's quieter. There's a decent coffee shop 2 blocks away that you start thinking of as yours. You tell people you wanted a better home office setup. That's partially true. One Saturday afternoon, you cancel 9 subscriptions. It takes 40 minutes. You realize 3 of them you had completely forgotten about. One of them you'd been paying for since 2021 for a service you used for approximately 2 weeks. The act of canceling isn't about the money. It's about deciding what you actually chose versus what simply accumulated. You set up an automatic transfer, $3,200 a month, into a brokerage account, index funds, broad market, boring, automatic. The transfer happens on the 2nd of every month and requires nothing from you. The first month, you check the account 11 times. By month 5, you mostly forget it's happening. That is the goal. That is what the system is supposed to feel like. The social adjustment is real, though. Financial content almost never talks about this part. The first time you suggest the less expensive restaurant, you notice something shift in the room. A small recalibration. Nobody says anything. Nobody has to. When a colleague asks about the new car and you tell him it's used, the conversation moves on a little faster than it used to. The identity you built cost money to maintain. Stepping back from it has a cost that doesn't appear in any spreadsheet. You feel it. You sit with it. You don't explain it or perform your way through it. And gradually, not quickly, not cinematically, the foundation underneath all of it starts to become solid for the first time.
You're 39 now. Marcus bought a house. 3-bedroom, decent neighborhood, school district he researched for 4 months. He put 20% down, no PMI. He did it on $79,000 a year. He did it because for a decade, while you were constructing a life that signaled wealth, he was accumulating wealth that didn't need to signal anything. At his housewarming, you finally had an honest conversation. You told him what the last 4 years actually looked like, the Sunday accounting, the reset, the slow, unglamorous work of closing the gap between earning and keeping. He listened without any condescension. He said, "It's strange. This stuff is everywhere, and somehow nobody actually talks about it." You said, "Yeah." That was it. It was enough. Here is what you understand now that you couldn't have understood at 33 when the offer letter arrived. Not because you were naive, but because you had to feel the math before you could really believe it. Income and wealth are not the same variable. They're not even the same category. Income is the water flowing into the tub. Wealth is whether the drain is open. You were running the tap at full pressure with the drain wide open and wondering why the tub stayed empty. Marcus was running a moderate tap with the drain almost completely closed. Thomas Stanley documented this exact pattern in The Millionaire Next Door. Most high net worth Americans are not high earners. They're disproportionately people who spent significantly below their means for long stretches of time, without fanfare, without an audience. When you control for savings rate, the correlation between income and net worth nearly vanishes. Let's address the tax thing directly, because it comes up every time. The top marginal federal rate in 2024 is 37%. Your effective rate, which you actually paid divided by what you actually earned, is closer to 21 to 23%. You kept roughly 77 cents of every federal dollar. The feeling of being taxed into helplessness at $235,000 is in large part a story constructed by marginal rate psychology. You looked at the highest bracket you touched and felt like that was the rate applied to everything. It isn't. That's not how brackets work. You were not the victim of tax policy. You were a voluntary participant in lifestyle inflation who needed a cleaner explanation. The IRS was convenient. Here is the real mechanism. The trap isn't the income. The trap is the identity you decided the income entitled you to. The apartment, the cars, the dinners, they weren't purely about enjoyment. They were about proof. Proof to yourself. Proof to your parents who grew up with less. Proof to the people who knew you before the number existed, that the number was real, that you had genuinely crossed into a different category of person. But the category where things are actually different is not defined by what you consume. It's defined by what compounds. It's defined by optionality. That's the word careful financial thinkers use when they mean freedom. The freedom to walk away from a role that is hollowing you out. The freedom to take 3 months off when a parent gets sick. The freedom to say no to a client you don't respect because your number is large enough that no doesn't cost you everything. $712,000 is not just an account balance. $712,000 is the ability to pause, to choose, to stop making every financial decision under the quiet, constant pressure of a monthly overhead that leaves you exactly zero margin for error and zero room to breathe. You did not have $712,000 at 35. You had $35,000 in a gym membership you were using twice a week, which was honestly the healthiest financial decision in your budget at the time. You were 39 now.
you have $241,000. Not there yet, but pointed correctly. Moving, compounding quietly in the background, while you live a life that is, honestly, genuinely, a good life. The apartment is smaller. The car has 51,000 miles on it. Sometimes dinner is the nice place. Sometimes it's the neighborhood spot, where the pasta is $13 and everyone leaves genuinely satisfied. What you feel is not deprivation. It is not sacrifice. It is the specific, quiet, almost unfamiliar sensation of a life where the inside and the outside finally match each other, where the number in the account and the number in your chest are moving in the same direction. There is one thing that actually matters here. The version of you earning $235,000 and spending $235,000 is not wealthy. That person is the highest compensated employee on a very expensive hamster wheel. The version of you earning $235,000 and keeping $75,000 of it, who invests it automatically, quietly, without posting about it, without needing a single dinner party guest to acknowledge it, that person is building something real, something that does not require a paycheck to survive, something that grows while you sleep in markets you'll never fully understand, toward a number that will eventually purchase the one thing a W-2 alone never could: time, choice, the actual life instead of the performance of it. You think about that Wednesday night, 11:52, the lamp that needed a new bulb, your phone lighting up on the couch cushion, the number, leaning forward. You were right. You had made it. You just had the wrong definition of what made it meant. You know the definition now. It cost 4 years of well-dressed, high-income confusion to find it. But you found it, and now you know exactly where to look. If this hits something real, subscribe. More of these are coming. Not the whiteboard and marker version of finance, the version that starts at 11:52 on a Wednesday night with a number on a screen and the slow, uncomfortable realization that the math has been running without you the entire time. See you in the next one.